welcome back to another episode of Remaking Sands of Time in a data pack. Alright, this is it. We've made it, finally, to like the pinnacle of all episodes, where you're going to be learning everything you need to know in order to make your own structures and add them into the data pack. Now, this video is going to build upon things that we've learned in previous episodes, so I recommend watching episodes 1 and 2 if you have next to no experience with data packs in general and data pack folder structure. And then after that, you'll want to watch episodes 8, 9, 10, and 14 to learn more specifics about how the Red Sands of Time data pack is structured and how rooms are generated and so forth. So once you've reviewed those and brushed up on the content that we talk about there, you come back to this video. Before we actually get into creating structures for the data pack, I want to take you through my setup process. It's obviously, not the only way to set up your workflow for data pack creation. I'm just going to show you what I do. And I don't know if you've watched other YouTube videos from other people where, they may start the video saying, grab a snack, relax, enjoy the video. Well, not this video. I expect you to sit up and pay attention. So with that out of the way, the first thing that you're going to do is here on the Minecraft launcher, before you even open the game, you want to go down to settings and then scroll down to the Java Edition settings and make sure this box is checked to make sure that we have the output log. This will be helpful for when we're trying to debug things. The logs aren't always super clear, but at least they give you some kind of error message when something goes wrong. So with that, you can go ahead and make sure you're on the latest release and click play. Okay, so we got Minecraft running. We also have our logs here. So we need some place to do our work in. So I'm going to create a new single player world. So create new world. We can call this whatever we want. And we're going to make it creative. We're going to go to the world settings and change it to super flat. This isn't necessary because all the dimensions in this world that we create won't be touched by the Red Sands of Time data pack. So I'm just going to make it a void world. And I think that looks good. So allow commands is on, difficulty normal is fine. And then I'm going to click create new world. Okay, here we are in the world. And what I'm going to do is actually just save and quit. So before we get our hands in the data pack, I highly recommend you download Visual Studio Code and set it up. It is a very useful tool for editing the files and the folders within the data pack itself. Okay, after you've installed VS Code and you have it open and running, it should look something like this. You have the File Explorer on the left. There should be a button for Clone Repository. If you don't see that, it might be under Source Control. If you don't see it there, then you may have to download and install Git, but there should be a little option for that as well. Just go through those steps. But we're looking for the Clone Repository button. We're not going to click it just yet because we need to create the repository first and then clone it into our workspace. Which leads us here to GitHub. You should all be familiar with this page, right? This is where you get the releases from, but we're not going to go to the releases actually. You'll want to make sure that you're signed in your own account. So I've just created a temporary account right here just for the sake of demonstration for this video. And you want to click this little fork button right here. There's this little page just to confirm things, click create fork. And so it's finished. What that has done is you can see that it's actually created a copy of the repository from CrownedComedian into my temporary account here. Okay, back in VS Code, now we can click the clone repository button and clone from GitHub. Go ahead and go through the setup process of signing in. And once that's complete, you should be able to see your username and then the forked repository right here. So we'll go ahead and select that. And now it's going to ask us where we want to save that cloned repo. And so what I'm going to do here is just temporarily move it into the folder of that new world that we just generated. For Windows, your Minecraft single player worlds are found under users, your username, app data, roaming, .minecraft/saves, and then the world name. So this is where I'm going to put it in just for now. We will have to move the contents over into the data pack folder. I'm going to go ahead and hit open here, even though it doesn't really matter. Okay, so what I've done is I just opened up two Explorer windows, and they both point to the world, right? So we can see the same stuff here. But this one goes into the data pack folder that was just cloned from GitHub, and then this one goes into the data pack folder of the world. And so I'm just going to copy all this into here. And back in VS Code, we can see those files have gone away. So we're going to go to File and then Open Folder. go to data packs, and then select this folder, the data packs folder. And so the reason why we've done it this way is to keep track of all the changes that we make. So if I just open up, the load function, one of the things that I do is clear the weather. So if I change this to rain and then save, you can see on the left here, the source control window has a notification for us. We see that we have one change now, and so it will show us what we previously had here to the new version over here on the right. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to revert, discard these changes to go back to the way it was. Now, we won't be making manual changes mostly of the time from here in VS Code. We'll be creating structures and then moving those structure files into the subfolders of our data pack here. And those changes will be picked up by Git, and Git will notify VS Code here, and those changes will show up here in this list like we just saw before. So now let's go back into Minecraft single player and go back into that world that we just created. And the data pack should load. So yeah, okay, here we go. So you should see this kind of prompt. Go ahead and say that you know what you're doing. So now if we do /datapack list, you can see that there are two data packs and they're both enabled for the vanilla one and our Red Sands of Time data pack. Okay, now we'll also want to make sure that we have the resource pack downloaded and enabled as well. So go hit escape and go to options and then hit resource packs. You can see that we don't have the Red Sands of Time resource pack listed here. We'll click open folder, and so this is where we want to put it. So we'll actually go back to the GitHub website, and under my namespace, CrownedComedian, you'll find the Red Sands of Time resource pack. So for this one, we actually can go to releases and then just download the zip here. So go ahead and extract it. All right, that will add this folder so we can have all of these moved over into our resource pack folder. I like to rename it to Red Sands of Time just so it looks a little cleaner. And then back in Minecraft, we should be able to see it. The most recent one has a picture of that red sand block there, so go ahead and select it, hit done. And so we got that loaded and ready to rock and roll. So the next step in setup is, I know there's a lot of steps. You'll actually want to install the data pack as usual, as you have in the past. So we'll go ahead and go to execute in Red Sands of Time, liminal space, and just TP over there. And we'll do /locate structure, liminal space structure, and then teleport over there. And hit the big install button. Okay, now we're done with the liminal space dimension. So we're gonna execute in Red Sands of Time. We're gonna go into a different dimension. There's a new dimension that I've added within the past like 2 updates, the dev dimension. So we're gonna go to 0, 0, 0. TP myself. Oh, run. I'm so silly. Yeah, so you can see that this dimension just gives us a bunch of empty space to work with. So with your feet firmly planted on 0, 0, you'll want to execute the command that I do here. It is place, template, Red Sands of Time, and repeating 5x5 grid. Okay, and what do you know, all of a sudden you have this grid structure. And so what it actually is doing is it just has some like command blocks that execute as soon as you get not super close to it. Actually, you can go pretty far out with the grid, but it will just continue to place the same structure over and over. So this will generate forever in both directions here. This will help us organize all the structures that we create in our dev dimension. Okay, and that completes it for all of the boring stuff. Let's actually get to building now. Alright, so for the sake of simplicity, I think I want to take you guys through explanation of how to build a room as a destination before I show you how to build a room that generates as a subsection of path. So a destination room is nothing more than a room that will be a vault or like a room that holds a key. So for those, I like to come over here to the left away from the grid because these are off grid. We will do /place template, And red sands of time, rooms, / Now, these rooms will, all the ones, anything that has a number followed by an X and then another number, those are all grid-based rooms. There are 2 more subfolders here, keys and vaults. So let's go for vaults, and then we'll do yellow second floor for the first example. So I'm just gonna place it here, floating over here, again off to the left. So the best way to learn about how these work right now, I would say, is to just, again, place one like this and just start breaking it, destroy it, and like find out how it works. So for instance here, first thing you may notice that is a little suspicious are these 3 blocks that stick out of the actual structure bounds. So these are actually placed by 3 command blocks here, here, and here. These are all, as you can see, impulse command blocks that just execute as soon as the structure is placed. And so all these really do is just make sure that the terracotta is aligned with the rest of the hallway here, just as a nice little touch, a detail there that I keep. The real connector jigsaw piece that is responsible for placing the room is this one right here. So this one is where we connect from another jigsaw block. You could see that its name is Red Sands of Time Path In. So yeah, so that's super essential for any room that you create as part of a destination. You'll want to make sure you have one jigsaw block with its name, Red Sands of Time Path In, facing in some kind of direction, not up or down. But yeah, so as we come in here, you could see some other jigsaw blocks, and those are all for decorations, and I'll talk about these template pools in a bit. But you could see, if we go up here, you have, for any vault, you have the block here, the vault block. Thing about this is, see, if I break this block, it still remains. So what this actually is it's actually a item display. So if I do /kill @n, that's the nearest entity type item display, it will kill that item display. And so you can see there's actually just an observer under here with a red command block, sorry, that is pointing in a specific direction. It's actually pointing towards a block down here, under the door, and over here. You'll see this bedrock block. Now, for all the structures that I create, if you see a bedrock block, that typically means that that block is supposed to change into a redstone block at some point and trigger some kind of chain of events. So that's all this right here. So what's really going on here is the vault block that was up here actually has some modified loot table, and then it will update the observer, and then that will trigger this command block, which runs a function. And we have access to all these functions now. So this function is update vault item display state. So if we go into our data pack here in VS Code, we go under function. It's gonna be at the bottom here. Update vault item display, blah, blah, blah. You can see what this function does. And so really all it does is it's checking for the unlocking state to make sure that the player actually submitted the right item, so the right key to this vault. So once it will be unlocking, it will actually trigger this block, and it will do /set block for those relative coordinates, but for the world, it's just that redstone block. I'm gonna actually copy this command so we can see it in action, because what that does is it triggers these command blocks down here, which animate this door down. So copy paste, you can see the change, and the door moves down. So all of these blocks are also, well, actually these are block display entities, right? Yeah, so if I do /kill @e type block display, it'll kill everything of the door. So yeah, so that's a little bit about how it works under the hood. Now let's go ahead and create our own. You can either start from, placing the structure down, or start from scratch. I think I will start from scratch just over here. What you need is, first off, a structure block, obviously. You could get that by doing /give your username and then structure block. I also have it saved as one of my creative hotbars, so that's why you see that load in a couple of blocks really quickly. So what we'll do is go into save, and then we'll name this Red Sands of Time Rooms, and then Vaults. So we're gonna make an alternative yellow vault room. So just for the sake of demonstration, go ahead and continue following me, and we'll go through all the steps to get this room implemented into the data pack, and then I'll encourage you guys to make your own kind of room destination with like maybe a key pedestal or something like that. So let's do this. So rooms, vaults, and then yellow example. Because I'm not creative, I'm just gonna name it example. I'm gonna say the relative position for 1, 1, 1. Actually, I'm gonna copy that and put it down into the ground, just because of this one. I like to keep it consistent with everything else. So then the structure size. Now this is kind of important here. So the size first, the depth here, let's just go for 30. And then the height, this can be whatever we want as well. Now I want this structure to also generate next to the hub structure. So there's some guidelines that you need to be aware of here. So I'm going to make this pretty tall, like 40 blocks tall. And this one I'm going to make 21 blocks wide. So if I hit done here, you'll see that we now have a structure that spans out 21 blocks wide, 30 blocks deep, and 40 or so blocks tall. Now the reason why it's so tall is, you can see over here, it didn't used to be like this, but what was happening was when you're like up here, if you look over the actual room ridge edge here, I've added all this sand stuff because before you could just see the flat edge of the hub structures and it ruined the illusion a bit. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, people still feel like they're underground and in a desert. So I added all this here. Yeah, so here's the hub. This should look familiar. So if we just go through one of these rooms, you know, imagine the second floor, like the vault, would be right where we're standing, and you would be able to see all this ugliness in the sky. So I didn't want that. But while we're here, let's get back to the point I was trying to make with the dimensions, the size of a room that attaches directly to the hub. The hub has a few exits on each wall, so it can have up to 3, right? So we have this kind of edge where we have 3 halls leading down, all on the bottom floor here of the hub. Then we have this kind of wall where we have a middle, then top left, top right, right? The space between these 2 halls is wider than these 2 halls. So this hall is actually closer to this hall in terms of distance here, right along the edge. It's 20 blocks from each center point. So if this is the center right here, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then if you count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you'll connect again to the center point. So what I'm trying to get here, well, the point that I'm trying to make here is that each room that we build, that we design to connect directly to the hub, can only be a max of 21 blocks wide. So that's 10 blocks in the left, then you have the center, and then 10 more blocks in the right direction. If your room is any longer or wider than that, then you'll have an issue where you may collide with another room generating from the hall adjacent to it from the hub, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So let's go back into our normal world. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then this is the center point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is as wide as it possibly can be. And the entrance has to be in the center here if we're going to make it this wide. Now, obviously, it could be thinner, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm going to hold Control and click on that jigsaw block up there and then just place it down here. So this will be our path in jigsaw block. You'll notice back here in our example up here that jigsaw block is placed 1 block below the path that the player actually walks on. So that's also important too. So we're going to add some packed mud. And then if we really wanted to, we could also copy these command blocks. I could even just clone this whole section here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And I'm not going to worry too much about how this example looks because it's an example. I honestly couldn't be bothered with how it ends up looking for the sake of the example. I just want to make sure you guys understand what's going on here. Yeah, I think I actually will place another one of these out here. So vault, yellow, second floor. So this will be helpful when I want to copy some things over, like the vault display item and the vault mechanics itself. So I'm going to hold control and middle click on the vault. I'm also going to grab this and then hold control again and middle click on the command block. So I have these three things in my inventory. Come back to my ugly example that I'm building here and place down the vault. So it's kind of hard to tell, but if you see the orange particles, they are flowing in towards this side of the block itself. So that's the side that faces the entry point here, and that's what we want. So we're gonna leave that as is right now. I'm gonna come down here, place the observer down, and then the command block, and I want that pointing out this way. Now, let's go ahead and run a little bit of a test here with the vault still in my inventory. I'm gonna go ahead and /give, or I guess it's /loot, give myself loot, and it's going to be keys, what is it, yellow key? Yeah, yellow key. So now we have a yellow key, and this one should work in this block. So before I use it though, you could do /data, get block, and then take a look at this block. You can see key item, components, item model, yellow key. So that should work here. So it did. And then you could see that it changed this block to be redstone block. So why is it that block? Well, if we come over here, we can see some input arguments into this function that runs. So we go down 3 blocks and then over 15. So if I was to change this to be, let's just keep it at -3, and let's move this closer in to be more like 4 blocks away. Actually, 6. So then if we kill this block and then replace it with a fresh copy of the copied block from over there. So again, this one will take in our yellow key and place the redstone block closer this time. Okay, so that looks good. So now I just want to clone all of these mechanics for the vault down over into this area as well. So I'm gonna go into spectator mode. So you can hold F3 and then tap F4 a few times to enter the game mode menu and choose your game mode. So I'm going to, let's see, I want to clone from down here. Let me see. How do I want to do this? So I know I would need this edge. I want to go over a little bit as well. And I think I want to start from right here. So let me see how far down I need to go. Probably right here to this block. So I'm going to do /clone here. And then let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks away from the center. Okay, so let's come over here and just go, I don't know, just go like over here and just clone from there to, what's another good building block I can use to temporarily place some blocks down. Because I do want that glowstone in there. So I'm going to go all the way over here and clone all that. Alright, so if I come over here, now remember this is where our block of redstone will end up, which we can change, but the important thing is that I come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks over, because that's how far I was when I inputted the first coordinate for the clone command. So let's go ahead and place it down right here. So that should be lined up in the center. Okay, so now we have the door kind of put in place. Let's go ahead and make sure that our command block, or sorry, our bedrock block gets switched to redstone. Let's see, did that work? It's changing the block right before. Okay, so that's good actually. So we can just increase that by 1. 6 goes to 7, there we go. And then I'm not going to test it again because I know that that will work. I'm going to leave it as is, because what it also does, those command blocks actually remove all the barriers here. If that does happen and you accidentally execute the command blocks and all the barrier blocks here are removed, you'll just have to manually place those back in. To get a door, what you'll want to do is put a command block just in the bottom left corner here. And this one, you can get rid of the function there. We're going to run a different function. So function, red sands of time, summon, and then vault door display. Now this takes in 2 arguments. So let's go ahead and take a look at that function. So again, here in our data pack, under our namespace, we go to function, and then summon, and then vault door display. We can see that it takes in 2 arguments, ID1 and ID2. ID1 forms the majority of the block displays, block display entities that will be summoned, and then ID2 forms that little ring around the iron bars. So in order to use this, what we want for our yellow vault is we want yellow concrete for ID1. So we'll say ID1 is yellow concrete, and then ID2 will be yellow glazed terracotta. Hit done, and then just activate it with some kind of block of redstone or whatever, I don't know. And boom, you have a door ready, locked and loaded, ready to go. So because we're using some entities now, we need to make sure that those load when we place the structure. So go to your structure block that you placed down and make sure that the include entities option is turned on. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this in just to make it look a little more decent, even though everything here looks completely ugly. Please don't make this a final copy of your room. The last little finishing touch that I want to go over with you guys here for this example, again, just for the sake of example, is getting the item display here. You're going to do /summon item display, and then it's going to be somewhere in these arguments. And you want to make sure your Y is 0.5, so in the middle of the block. And then I think this one will be -60. I was just running I was just testing this, so it should be correct here. And then for the MBT data, I'm going to paste in some stuff. So what you want is under item, components, I'm going to make sure the item model is red sands of time : yellow vault. And if you're making a different kind of vault, it would just be the different color _vault. Count 1, and then the ID is the vault block. So go ahead, once you're done that, hit enter. Okay, so I misaligned it. I think what I needed to do, let me see, is 0.5 here. Yeah, okay, so you can see that that's aligned here with the block now. What I'll do is I'll just kill this one. So kill at end, this will be item display, type item display. And that will just kill that one guy. So one last thing, you'll notice that it is facing the wrong side. So I'll do /rotate, again, the item display, entity, item display. And then to rotate it correctly, you'll want to do 90, 0, and hit enter. So that will rotate it facing the entrance. So you'll know you'll done it correctly if when you walk away and then walk back, you'll see the texture update. Yes, so our observer is executing our command block, and our function is updating the display state for this entity. Perfect. All right, well, while it is very ugly, it's a start. And so I say it's time we see if we can get this ugly structure to start generating in the data pack. So let's go ahead and go to our structure block. Make sure to double check our name and then the dimensions, and that the include entities toggle is on. And we'll come over to the right and just hit save. All right, so I've got 2 File Explorer folders open right now. They both are subfolders, subdirectories of the world. So if you take a look, we got .minecraft saves, red sands of time, that's our world that we're working in here. We have a new folder generated, so this is where all of the structures that you save from structure blocks will be located. So we've got our namespace, and then structures, so we can see rooms, and then vaults, and then our example MBT file right here. So let's go back to just the structures subfolder, so you see the folder rooms here. And then on the right side here, we've got our data pack, red sands of time. So this is the one that we are working in. We have the same kind of subdirectory, data, our namespace, and then structure. That's important, it's not structures. That was changed for who knows what reason, I don't know. But anyway, so all you want to do is drag this over, and then it should go right in, right nicely, because it is the first kind, it's not a duplicate. We could see our example here under vaults, and then yellow example. But that's not enough. We need to add it into our template pool for our data pack. All right, so back in VS Code, again, you can see there is one change under source control. You can even see our structure folder is highlighted in green, and that's where that change is coming from. So we could see that Git has picked up that example structure, so it's added in. Let's go ahead and add it into our template pool though. So under world gen and then template pool, we're going to go to destinations and we're going to look for yellow vault, right? So currently there's only one structure being generated here. Let's go ahead and just actually, I'm going to copy this first and I'm actually going to replace it. So yellow example and save that. Now you can see there are two changes here. So yellow example and yellow vault. Let me actually zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. So this will force our yellow example structure to generate in place of the yellow second floor. What we will do eventually is actually just add that structure in as a second option. So we have the second floor and our example. So either one of those rooms can generate, just to give it a little bit of flavor. I'm gonna not do that right now just to make sure we see this actually generating. Okay, so back in the world here, we will actually have to save and quit and reload. It's not enough to just do /reload. You actually have to save and quit and join back into your single player world. Team is open, so we can pick whatever team we want. Let's go to, oh, I still have my 4th of July skin on. Let's do a patriotic color then. Blue. We did blue last time, so maybe we should do red this time. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's go ahead and start the game. Okay, I'm just gonna go into creative mode and not wait for this timer to finish counting down. So our yellow vault should generate over there. So I'm gonna do /scoreboard players set hashtag pregame and then time remaining to 4, and that actually cuts the countdown. So the rooms over here won't generate until the countdown is done. But yeah, it looks like our room is generating. Everything is lined up correctly. That's nice. And then again, if we do /loot, give myself loot, red sands of time, yellow key. So say we have the yellow key, we come up to the vault, put it in, and boom, we have the vault unlocked. Very nice. Okay, so it is functional. Definitely needs a lot of work and decoration and sealing to make sure people can't walk off into the oblivion. But yeah, there you go. Okay, so before we go into our next example, let's take a quick detour and take a look at the block palette I recommend using for the structures that you add into the data pack. You want to be careful with some of these as well because of the tags that we use inside the data pack. So take a look at, again, the namespace, and then under tags, under block, there are some pretty important JSON files here. So let's take a look at carpet placeable. So this is a list of all the blocks that players can place carpet on. They cannot place it on anything else. So typically a lot of the floor of your structures should be built out of these blocks. But none in the walls. So please do not place this stuff in the walls because it can lead to unexpected behavior. I found that out earlier. Then you have torch placeable. So this is a list of all the blocks that you can place torches on. As you can see, there's a lot more blocks to work with here. And those are the two main important things. I would not recommend placing, building anything with these directly. So like the glazed terracotta and then the colored concretes. And then, yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. But let's go back into Minecraft and take an actual look at the example that we have here. So I have several categories here. So let's first take a look at all the quartz block. blocks that you can use. So these are the smooth variants of quartz blocks. Also have glowstone and mangrove trapdoors in here. Those are used in like the pillars that you see in the hub as well. So you have your mud tones. Again, this is going back to that carpet placeable list, so you see a lot of those. You do have the frog light in here as well that you'll see sometimes. These are also in like some of the ceilings. Stones. So some rooms that are dedicated to spawners will have rooms of like stone and cracked stone to dig through. I don't have too many of those in the data pack right now, but I hope to implement some more. You'll also see some like reinforced deep slate in certain areas where you have a lava pool, and you'll only find lava pools at destinations for vaults and keys. I don't put lava in any of the other rooms in the data pack. Then you have nether bricks. I use red nether bricks for encasing mobs. So if you want to add a frozen mob into your room, I'll go over that later on in this video. We'll encase it in red nether bricks. And then you also, in the next section, have your vegetation. These are the only 3 flowers that I use in the data pack. You will also see these in like further kinds of further away decorations typically. But these will be the 3 types of flowers in flower pots. And then you have woods. So you only have 2 types of planks that are used. So you have jungle and spruce variants. Those are the only 2 for planks. You do have mangrove, as you know, throughout the dungeon, or throughout the tomb. But you will never see like a planks variant for the mangrove, except for that trapdoor that we saw earlier. And then if you ever see a variety of different types of wood logs, those are only used for puzzle elements. So they're designed to call attention to something in the room, typically like some kind of target block. Then you have your red sandstone category. Now remember, the important thing to know about this is to make sure that any block here that you use in your room needs to be at a certain height away from the player's feet and the floor, because we don't want them to mistake it for a block of red sand. If some of these are like floating in the air or like on a wall, like the player should be able to recognize, oh, that's not red sand because it's not on the ground. So these are typically used in like mantles or as part of a outpouring of water spigot or something high up in the wall, and kind of sparingly actually. And then you have your terracottas, so you just have like 6 common shades of terracotta blocks. Okay, and now for the jigsaw blocks that I use to sprinkle lots of decorations throughout your room. I'm gonna load those in. Again, I have them saved as a hotbar here on my creative tab. There are 9 different template pools that you'll be using for jigsaw blocks for decorations. These are all pretty self-explanatory and all pretty similar. I have these blocks named so I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm placing them down. It's super convenient for when you're creating a lot of rooms. So the first one is a potential lapis pile. All of these are found in a template pool under the namespace and then decorations. So we have potential lapis pile, so this is guaranteed to generate some lapis. Potential interest, so this may be like I think it may be a lapis pile. Actually, no. I think it's either a decorated pot or a block of sand or air, right? Because it's potential. It could be something or it could not be. And then this is interest, so this is guaranteed to be some kind of decorated pot or like a block of red sand. Potential spawner, and then you have spawner, right? So you're starting to see a theme here. Potential candles, and then large lapis pile. Now this one is only found within vaults of a destination, so I don't sprinkle large lapis piles throughout rooms. And that's basically it. That's all you need to know for decorating your rooms. Just place these jigsaw blocks down and they'll do the work for you. And it's also possible to add your own decoration structures like these into the data pack so that the players can find different kinds of tools, equipment, armor, and whatnot as they run through the tomb. So back here in our new world, in our fresh dev dimension, I want to go through 2 examples of how you can create your own decoration structures and add them into the data pack. One will be an item in the ground that the players can walk through and it will be added into their inventory automatically. The other one will be a decorated pot that the players can smash and get the loot inside. So for the first example, I have a command block here set up with the summon command. So we summon an item display entity. Now we preface this command with the execute align, so it's aligned on all 3 axes of our world. And this is important for when we use the coordinates for the item display that we want to summon. We want to make sure it's lined up in the center of the block in the X and Z axes. And then we also want to make sure that it's tucked inside the block, so we move it up in the Y axis just a little bit. So then we have the actual NBT data for the item display entity, so we make sure that we use whatever ID we want. So I'm going to summon a netherite sword item display entity, and then it has an additional enchantment component that I've added for sharpness 3. This is just for the sake of demonstration. I want to come back to this after we've run the command, so just keep this in mind. And then this is where the real magic happens. We have the transformation. So all display entities have a transformation field that can allow us to change the position and rotation of the display entity. So I've just copied over the same one used in the iron sword already generating in the data pack, so it will be stuck in the ground here. So if I go ahead and power that command block, we can see, and then also hold F3 and B. We can see the sword is a netherite sword. It has the enchantments effect, and then it's stuck in the ground while being centered actually in the block and then up just a little bit. So that's where this blue line kind of starts. Now if I run over it, it's just an item display, nothing happens. So in order to get this to work, we use light blocks. So you can get this by doing /give yourself and then light. If I hit enter, I'll get another one. You can see there, I just need one though. So go ahead and place a light block down. Now these give off light and they can go up to level 15. I don't want light level 15, so if you right click it just a few more times, it will look a little bit weird, but it's actually changing its value. So I think I clicked it like 3 times. So we've gone from 0 to 1 to 2. I'm gonna bring it up to 4. And the purpose for that is to just give off a little bit of light where this item is, so that when it generates in a dark room in the tomb, the player can see this item and maybe give them an enticement to go for it. So that's why the light blocks are used. It's also used for functionality for the data pack. There is an achievement that executes for when the player enters a light block. It will look for item display entities in that block and then give those items that the item display entity has into the player's inventory. So just like this. So you can see I walked into the block. I now have an iron netherite sword in my inventory. You will notice though, it is missing its enchantments. So that is something that I did not add into the data pack because none of the items that I sprinkled throughout the floors of the tomb have enchantments. This is something that is possible, but I'm going to let you guys implement that if you need it. I didn't need it, so I didn't implement it. So let's go ahead and bring that back actually. I'm going to execute this command block a few times. So we've done it 3 times, and then place a light block down again. And just to demonstrate that, every item that is inside that block will be added into the player's inventory. So that time I got 3 netherite swords. So I'm going to go ahead and update this command to remove the enchantments. There we go, just like that. Summon it one more time, and then bring this light level down to like 4 or whatever. And to finish this example off, add a jigsaw block facing down. I want to name it Red Sands of Time Decoration. And then make sure it turns into air. There we go, that looks good. And then we'll add our structure block here, change it to save, and we'll name it Decorations Netherite Sword, and the structure size will be 1 to 1. And this is important, you'll want to make sure that you click Include Entities to make sure that's set to on. We'll click Done, just give it one final check, that looks good. Okay, so let's go on to our second example here with a pottery shard. So we're gonna go to this crafting bench. I have these 2 pottery shards and then 2 bricks for making our decorated pot. I like to use decorated pots that have 2 sides of decoration, one on the opposite sides of each other and then 2 blank sides, just to kind of give some mystery. So if the player sees it from this side, they need to come around to see what it is, and they can come to either left or right. You can make it look as however you want, honestly, but that's just the standard that I've been doing. And I'm gonna add a wind charge into this pot. Just a single one. I think this might be a fun mechanic to add into the actual data pack. I'm definitely not adding netherite swords, but I think a wind charge, maybe if it was like super rare and just one in the decorated pot, could give the players some interesting opportunities to maybe skip some certain puzzles that they don't want to do, or parkour or whatnot, if they can use this wisely. But anyway, we're going to finish this one off as well. I'm going to actually hold control and then copy that on over, because this is the exact same jigsaw block that we want. Same name, same everything else. That looks good. And then the structure block, I actually have the decorated pots in their own subfolder of the decorations folder. So we'll name it decorations, decorated pots, wind charge. And this one, I don't need it to include entities, so I'm just going to turn that off. Okay, so I think that looks good. So we'll go ahead and save both of these structures, and we'll move it on over into our data pack. Now in our data pack opened up here in VS Code, we want to come into the template pool folder and then look for two template pools here. There's the interest and potential interest. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm actually going to nuke a lot of this stuff just to make sure we can see our new structure being generated in the tomb. So the interest template pool will be guaranteed to generate our netherite sword. And then I'll do a similar thing here with the potential interest decoration template pool, where I give it a value of maybe a 1 in, here, let's change this to 5. So it's 1 in 6 chance of generating a wind charge decorated pot, and then a 5 in 6 chance of generating nothing. So I'll go ahead and save both of these. You'll want to save and quit out of your single player world and then rejoin to make sure those changes to our data pack template pools take effect. All right, so to test it out, let's go ahead and get a game going here. Should see, yeah, so I already am seeing some weird behavior here, but that is expected because we've changed the template pools patterns. So there are some decorated pots with our wind charge now. Very good. Let me go ahead and go into adventure mode like we're supposed to be, so I can use these items for real. That's also another wind charge, because that's the only thing that will generate. We have our netherite swords sticking in the ground. Very good. Oh, there's some over there too. And the decorated pots still have a chance, oh, like that, of spawning a silverfish in them as well. Okay, and with all that out of the way, I think it's finally time that you guys learn how to generate your own rooms that can be placed in the paths of the tomb. So, you probably already have an idea of what you want your room to look like. I'm gonna have to sit you down here for a second and say, yeah, there are some strict rules that you must follow in order to create a room. So we're gonna start simple. I want you to follow along with me as we are in the hub here. Go ahead and pick either the 3 o'clock or the 9 o'clock pathway exits out of the hub. Go ahead and go down it a little bit, and you should see a room like this. So as of the current version of the data pack, this is the only room that will generate right here, right off the hub exits, on, again, either the 3 o'clock or the 9 o'clock pathways. We are going to recreate a room with the same definition as this room. So what defines a room? We should remember from the episode all about room generation, it is the width and depth of the room, so the size of the room, basically, and the position of the door frames along the perimeter of a room. So first off, with this room, how big is it? What is the width and the depth? Well, let's go ahead and go into spectator mode. You could fly around and just even go out of the room here, and we can see the path structure is everything in the magma blocks. And then the room structure that generates within the path is, you can kind of see where this room kind of ends here because of all the ancient debris here. And then it's flattens out here, and then obviously, you know, it starts right at the edge of the hub here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this corner. So this is the corner of the room here, and start marking off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then do the same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so then we'll come around here to the other corner, and this should be, I think this would be sea lanterns here. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm gonna fill in the rest of the perimeter real quick. Okay, so I've built just a little perimeter ring that represents the size of the room here. Again, if we go into spectator mode, you could see this is the door frame, this is the edge, and then you can see that the other half, the other edge of this door frame is a part of a different room. So we don't include any of this stuff because this is a completely different structure. And then here we have the edge of the door frame here. So if we just fly up from the door frame edge, we can see that we have a door frame on this edge right here. And then we also have the other door frame right down here lined up with this edge. So also take note of the height of the door frames. We can see that this entry door frame is lower than this door frame. So this means, this tells us, right, that this can generate on the bottom or the middle floor potentially, and then this one can potentially generate on the middle or the top floor. So middle, top, and then this is bottom or middle here. So when trying to figure out what the definition of this room is, the definition will tell us what the name of the structure should be. It is a 3 by 4. You can see 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 by 4 room with door frames on edge 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So on edge 2 and 9. And we know that edge 2, or it could be facing this way. So one of the edges has to be a door frame that is positioned higher than the other door frame. And so we can even try this out. Just fly off into some empty space here and do /place and then template, red sands of time rooms /3x4, right? Because it's a 3 by 4. And then we're looking for something that starts on edge 2. So that narrows it down already to only 2 options here. So there's a 2 bottom middle top and 9 bottom middle top. That means that both of these door frames are on the exact same level. So that means that's not what we're looking for. So this one, 2 middle top or 9 middle bottom, that sounds a lot more like what we're noticing and viewing in our structure here. And then it's called ant farm. So this is the ant farm room. So if we hit enter, place that down just to confirm, we can see, yes, this is the room that we are looking for. And you'll notice again these jigsaw blocks here. So this is for the bottom, this is for the middle, and then same thing over here. This one, so this one's only for the top. Okay, and that's probably because of the height and how it generates. So go ahead and teleport back into your dev dimension here. One thing that I failed to mention earlier while we were working on decorations is for the grid here, I like to organize it based off of size. So I have some padding here, and then any structure that is only 1 wide, I will go ahead and build off into the distance this way, then give another block for padding, another square that is for padding, and then any structure that is 2 wide, I will go ahead and build off into the distance here. So that's my 2 by 2s, 2 by 3s, 2 by 6, whatever. And then here, after some more padding, we have 3 by whatever. So that is where we'll be working here. So let me go ahead and give myself a structure block and put it down in this corner here. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to hit cancel and look for the template name. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then in the structure name, I'll go ahead and paste. And the relative position will be 111. And we want this on load mode. So go ahead and hit load. You should see that the outline of the structure matches the perimeter that we expect to see. 3 squares this way, 4 squares that way. And once that looks good, we could go ahead and hit load. So that will load in that structure for us. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think this room here in our dev dimension will actually be better serving off as a reference point. So let's not modify this. If we do break anything, we can always, come back to this and hit load again, and it will load it fresh up. But I think it would be good to just keep the jigsaw blocks here and then build our own room right after it. So we can go over here, hold control, middle click that structure block, come over here and place it down, and so we can have a outline to start working with. Now I do want to make sure that I drive the point home of height for your rooms. So right, we need to make sure that the room has the same definition for the width and the depth, but what about the height? well, I want to come over here, and I've made this little structure here to kind of demonstrate the maximum height of any of your rooms that can be is 30 blocks tall. And there are, remember from the room episode all about room structures, there are 3 levels to the paths that in the tomb that generate. So when you're building a room, every level has the floor and then 4 blocks up, and then you'll have the next level, floor and then 4 blocks up, floor, and then, you know, at least 4 blocks up. The basement area can go up to 7 blocks down below the floor level. So that's all of this magenta wool section here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, so that doesn't have to always be the case. You can again see here back in our example, the floor level, and then it only comes down 2 blocks. Now the top level can go up to 12 blocks high. So we can see the floor and then start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And each pathway, each door frame should at least have these 2 blocks empty, so filled with air, so the player can run through and connect, other rooms can connect properly to the room that you generate. Now, there's one more little gotcha here that I need to call your attention towards. Structure void blocks need to be placed in every frame that extends below the ground level here. So since this door frame extends below here, you should have a structure void block right below the floor there. If you have one here, same thing here, and even on the top level, same dealio there. And it needs to be for every edge that extends out of the perimeter of your structure. So we can see that here in this structure. Right, all the structure void blocks are turned into air because when we placed this structure, there was only air to begin with. So there was actually a structure void block like right here, but those are now air. But also, right below the floor in the center, there is just 1 block reserved. And that's reserved for command blocks that run to generate the path itself and place all the rooms inside of it. Same thing down here. If your structure actually started like right here on the floor, on the ground level, right, there's no need to have this little gap because that's not part of your structure. So everything will work just fine there. And there's one other little gotcha with structure void blocks. So if you are going to have a structure whose topmost door frame would represent like the top level here, and you extend it all the way up these 12 blocks tall to the top area, you need to make sure that the outer rim is full of structure void blocks as well. So the whole perimeter here for this little 1x1 would be full of structure void blocks, just like this. An example of this in the actual data pack is found in this room here, the 2x3 dripstone pits. So you're probably familiar with this one. This one has a 4-block jump that you have to complete, and it has dripstone on the bottom if you don't. So this one can generate with the door frame on either the bottom, middle, or the top because it's small enough in terms of its height. It's short enough to be able to generate on any of the levels. You can see again here there is a block reserved for a structure void block, and then we actually, so from the floor here, come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you can see this is the maximum height that this structure can be if we want it to be able to generate here on the top level. And so since it is on 12 blocks up above the floor, we need to make sure that this entire perimeter has structure void blocks in it. I'm not going to explain why. It's a secret. Just make sure you do it. Okay, with all that in mind, let's go ahead and start making a room with the same definition as our ant farm room here. I don't think I want it to be as tall, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring the height down here a little bit, maybe to something like 14. And I'll even start creating the ground here on the bottom of the structure. Oops. Okay, so we have our first floor here. Let's go ahead and build the door frame. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we'll come over here and build up to the next level. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this will be the ground for the exit extending out of this edge of the structure. We'll go ahead and build yet another door frame over here. Just the standard type. We're not going to change it up for this demonstration. Okay. That looks good. So that's where the door frame should be. Now, real quick, I'm going to also grab the jigsaw block names. So I'm going to take a look at this here. This is the important part, right? So every jigsaw block that is responsible for placing or being a connector jigsaw block for where the room should be placed needs to have the namespace, red sands of time, and then piece, and then what level it's on, and then what edge it's on based off of the depth and either the left side or the right side of the room. So if we want this room that we create to be able to generate in the same template pool as this guy, our original room, we're going to go ahead and name it the same thing, 4 deep and 2 to the left, and then we'll do the same thing for, oh my goodness, the right one here, 4 deep, 2 to the right. And then on our original door frame here, we have it generating either in the middle floor or the bottom floor. 4 deep, 2 to the left, middle dot 4 deep dot 2 to the right, 2 to the left for the bottom here, bottom dot 4 deep dot 2 to the right for this one. Okay, I've been working on it just a little bit here. In order to create a room, I like to just kind of start creating a perimeter all out of mud bricks and then see how it feels. One thing that I've also been trying to do better on is adding more interest into the floor. As people run through the tomb, they generally will look at the floor more than like the ceiling and whatnot. And I use this to my advantage in some instances. There'll be secrets and clues to certain puzzles if you just look up, but it also means that I don't spend time decorating the floor. So I'm trying to do a better job at that, but yeah, so I think this is getting to be a more interesting design for a floor here. Another thing that I want to point out here is that, you know, the dimensions of the room structure itself, right, are 3 squares out, so that's 15 blocks, and then 4 squares this way, right, that's 20 blocks. The door frames obviously, have to be on the edge, but any edge that doesn't have a door frame doesn't necessarily have to come all the way out to the edge of the structure itself. You do have this space to work with, but you don't have to utilize it. Oh, also, before I forget, I did clear out all the rest of the packed mud that I had originally just down here, just to keep things clean. Okay, so for the sake of demonstration, I've just gone ahead and filled in what it looked like already. That's fine. I've also added, if you could hear, a tripwire hook. So I typically use these for mobs that will be frozen in the red nether bricks. So let's go ahead and add one of those right now. I'll show you guys how to do that so you can add those into your room. The typical structure will look like this. You just have some kind of ring of red nether brick stairs, and then red nether brick at the bottom, 2 blocks of black stained glass, and then a half slab of red nether bricks on top. Now you'll need a command block, and you'll want to just go into spectator mode and go right below the red nether brick block here. So this packed mud, so if I middle click right now, yep, that's the red nether brick. And you'll want to place the command block facing in whatever direction you want the mob to initially spawn and looking at. So this command block is pointing this way, which means that when the mob spawns, it'll be encased in this little case structure facing this way, just like this. So the command that you'll want to put in here, first off, you'll actually click this button, always active, then hit done. Now the command. So go back into it, type function, in sense of time, summon, it will be frozen, it was on there, I totally just didn't. Frozen mob, and then you need one argument, type, and this will be in quotation marks. We'll put Minecraft, and I typically use like a creeper, I guess, so we'll just go with that. And then hit done. Now that's nice, but we'll need to wire that up to some redstone actually, because what this function does is it A, summons the mob, but also B, changes the command that will execute in this command block, and when it will execute, it will change it from always active to needs redstone. The reason that we do it this way is so that mobs will spawn initially in the cage here, facing the correct direction. I noticed an issue, and it's in one of the previous episodes, where frozen mobs in cases like this were not facing the correct way, so I just made a function to navigate around that issue. And see, now it's actually good that this wall didn't extend all the way to the edge of the structure itself, because we want to put in some redstone dust here. One thing that I will also note while we're going over demonstration stuff here is that redstone wire itself should never be placed on the actual perimeter, the last edge of a structure. And that is because it could interfere with other room structures that generate right next to this room structure. And we want to make sure that every redstone circuit that we add into a room is isolated from other rooms adjacent to it. Now, since that is live, I want to be careful with going into that room and accidentally tripping the tripwire. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the empty space with ancient debris, and then replace the magma blocks with structure voids. Always remember to replace this with the structure void block. Okay, so I've also replaced all of the magma blocks with structure void blocks. Let's go ahead and give this a name, example, and we'll go ahead and hit save. Go ahead and drag it over, and then we'll add it into our template pool. So world gen template pool rooms, and then this is a 3x4, and we're looking for 2 middle top, and we're gonna just copy this, add the comma, paste it in, and instead of ant farm, it is example. And we're gonna give this a weight of 90 because I really want to make sure that this thing generates properly. Okay, so we've saved and quit and loaded back into our world and into the liminal space dimension. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this room to generate. If you ever want to stop this annoying timer from reading, just come over to the left here and destroy that bit of redstone dust off of the command block there. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and go into one of these tunnels, and we can see, yep, our new room, example room, is generating properly. We have our creeper frozen in time here, and if we don't activate the tripwire yet, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the command block command. So now it's going to run a different function, and we can see here that it also has been set to need redstone. So now if we go ahead and activate that command, it will break the glass, and then I think it gives the creeper or whatever entity is here AI, because it should be tagged with no AI, that's why it just sits there. Yeah, there he is, he's roaming free now, and we can see that this door frame has lined up with another section of path. That's all well and good. There used to be some kind of command block there, but that has been since replaced with the path generation, so this looks good. We can continue on our merry way. Very good. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about randomness in rooms. So if you have any kind of room structure that you create where you want to add some interesting random results to it that could be different for each run, you need to be careful about how you do it, because you want to avoid using the /random command, right? If we do /random value and then it will give it a range, it will do as we expect. It will give us a random number, but it will be different every time we run that command. And so this can lead to certain teams running through the tomb having an unfair advantage by getting a more favorable results than other teams, because the output of that random command will be different per team, per dimension. So how do we get around that? Why, we use structures, of course. Oh, okay, jokes aside though, there are these 15 small tiny structures included in the data pack that each hold a dispenser, and all of those dispensers are actually pointing up. You can't see it because there is a jigsaw block on top as well. But each of them hold just one thing, a shulker box, which hold a certain count of brushes. And these brushes are tuned to allow for a different signal strength to be coming out of a comparator that you can build in your room structures, right? So there's 15 of these, having signal strength of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all going all the way up to 15. So we can build a redstone circuit in our room structure that will lead to a different output based off of the signal strength coming from the comparator pointing out of the shulker box. And that shulker box, of course, as you can see, comes from a structure that is placed with our room. We're doing it this way because when we place a structure, it will be the same for each team. So every team will get the same dispenser structure no matter what dimension they're in. So back here in the little dev dimension that we've been using in this video, I'm going to take you through how to build this circuit, or at least the way I build the circuit. Oops, I just broke some ancient debris. Okay, so anyway, so I've cleared a little space of ancient debris underneath the room structure that we were using just previously, and we're going to start with a command block set to always active. And so the command that runs in this command block will execute as soon as the structure is placed. And what we're going to do is run set block at this position redstone block. So this will act as our trigger. So once the room structure is placed, this will become a redstone block, which will power our circuit. Next, we're going to add some dust next to it, and then a jigsaw block pointing up, and this will be where our dispenser will be placed. So the dispenser pointing up will be this jigsaw block right here, and then the shulker box, so I have one right here with just one brush in it, so let me go ahead and put that in my inventory here. So that will be placed right here. So we need a comparator sticking out of it right here. I'll come back to this jigsaw block and put in the details here. I'll do that last, but let me just focus on the redstone itself right now. Coming off of this redstone dust, we'll need a repeater set to 2 tick delay, and then a block and a redstone torch above that, and then some dust connecting both of this. And we're also going to need to come over here and have another comparator facing out this way in subtract mode. And then we'll need some kind of block that gives a signal strength of 15. If you are planning to have multiple randomized rules in one structure, I'd recommend using a jukebox and then just have a repeater pointing out so you can chain these right together. There's no room right here, so we can actually set this to be a redstone block. But if you are going to use a jukebox, all you would need to do is do /data, modify block, and then the coordinates of the block, and then its record item, and then we'll set that to be an item. So ID : Minecraft : music disk _5. So that will give a signal strength of 15. And then obviously, you know, with every item we need our count. I'm sorry, set value. There we go. So now we could see, that those lights on our comparator have lit up. And if we were to get rid of that in subtract mode, we can see that that is a signal strength of 15. But we don't want that necessarily. We don't even want that dust there. We want it one block over. So now from here, you'll just come out 8 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then wrap around to the end here, and then just add redstone dust on top of all of this nonsense. And then lastly, you'll add torches to every output that you want to use in your signal. So there could be up to 15 torches here, right? Leading all the way up to here. So that's signal strength 15. For the purposes of demonstration, I actually don't need all of that. So I'm just going to fill in the first, I don't know, 6. And then typically from here, what I'll do is I'll put a command block out here with needs redstone, and it will either set a block somewhere else in the structure to be a redstone block, or summon or tag an entity, whatever you need it to do. I'm just gonna have it say something for the purposes of demonstration. Okay, so that's all of these commands. Ready to go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then lastly 1. Don't need this here anymore, and I will actually replace that with a redstone block. And I don't need that there. Okay, so what information do we need to put in this jigsaw block? Okay, so the target template pool. So if we go into the data pack, actually, we can go under world gen, template pool. If you look under puzzles, there is a randomized role folder, and here you can find several different template pools, each with a different role range. You could create your own template pool here if you want. You just, copy one of these and then start modifying the numbers here to be what you need them to be, or add more output values if you need them, or even change the weight values if you want that. But for the purposes of demonstration, again, I'm just going to use this one since it already exists. We'll just roll a number 1 through 6, and that'll be that. So back in Minecraft, what we need is red sands of time, puzzles, randomized roll, 1 underscore through underscore 6. Okay, its name doesn't matter, but the target name does. So all of those randomized roll structures that we were just taking a look at, the jigsaw block name is red sands of time, component. And then lastly, we'll make sure that we turn it into structure void instead of air. This will allow that dispenser pointing up to be placed instead of an air block. And that looks good, so we'll hit done. I'm gonna go ahead and save our example room structure again, drag the new version on over, and we'll make sure to replace it. Alrighty, so back in our dev dimension, we're going to go into one of the team dimensions. So I'm going to do /execute in red sands of time, and then we'll just pick the purple pandas. Run TP here. And I'm also going to turn on chunk borders so you can see a little bit more of what we're talking about here. So yeah, sure. In this chunk, let's go ahead and place that jigsaw template pool. So /place. Jigsaw, red sands of time, rooms, /3x4, and it's this one, and we'll need to make sure that we use a piece that actually exists in it. So middle, and then 4 deep, and then to the left, I believe should be okay. And then hit enter. Yep, there we go. All right, and you can see in chat that we got one of our randomized rolls to execute, and it was a 6. So we got this shulker box, and we got this torch turned on, right? Our command block has turned into a redstone block, and that triggered our circuit. So let me go back into this chunk. It was right here in this chunk right here. And if I do /execute in red sands of time, and we'll pick a different dimension, another team dimension. Let's go to the red rabbits. Sure. Run TP to the same location, and then we do the same command. We'll see the same output, and that will be for every dimension. So if we just to be double, triple sure, we'll go into the llamas and move a little over in the chunk even. It doesn't matter, just as long as we're in the chunk. And there you go, you get the 6. That makes it fair and even for every team playing the game. Ooh, one thing that I almost forgot to mention before we move on to the next thing, in regards to like redstone circuitry in your structures that you create, it is important that you do not ever put redstone dust like this on top of a command block, because it will just pop off and it will break your circuit. So if you can, at all times, make sure you just have like dust on top of a block that will trigger the command block, or like this with the torch above it. That's fine. Alright, enough of that thinky little example room. Let's go on to a more complicated example. A big boy example. So, behold this room. This room is a big structure. It's actually a 6x6 structure, and it has door frames on all 4 sides here. You can see there are 2 door frames lined up right next to each other on 2 of these sides. That is because we also have dead-end structures that will cut off one of these or both of these for each side of the room here. I've taken time to add decorations and make sure everything looks nice. I've added the jigsaw blocks everywhere, but this room has never seen the light of day. Why is that? Well, it's actually the most complicated example. In fact, it's unnecessarily complicated. And that comes down to a lesson that I really didn't think about until a little whiles into making rooms in the data pack. So we want to talk about the principle of reusability. The key to reusability is symmetry. And this room is not symmetric, at least in terms of how we define a room, right? There are 2 door frames here that are mirrors of these 2 door frames here, so that's all well and good. But as soon as you add another door frame like this that's up in the corner, or this one that's down low, then your symmetry is ruined. And that's exactly what we have. So this room will require very specific blueprint structures in order to be placed in the paths. So I don't know, we may come back to this room a little bit later in the video when we're talking more about advanced blueprint structures and whatnot. But until then, let's go ahead and take a step in between this example and the one that we were just working on and create a room that's flat and can be easily incorporated into several blueprint structures. So the idea I have for this room is kind of inspired by some of the backroom stuff. There's this one area that has just these group of pillars that continue on for a long time. So I kind of want to recreate that in a room. I think it would be kind of interesting. So I'm going to hit done. I'm not going to hit save just yet because we haven't built anything. But here we go. Here's our perimeter and our bounding box of what our structure may look like. So I'm thinking I want this to be on the second layer because I do want it to dip down about just one block somewhere in some spots in this room. So now we need to add our door frames. Now a door frame doesn't have to be on the edge, like exact edge like this. In fact, for this one, I'm gonna have it come in maybe like 3 blocks. I have to double check what I'm thinking about here. But I typically like to, you know, give some variety in some of the rooms. It doesn't have to always be the exact same thing. But if I do want to maximize the amount of space that I have in the room, then I will push the door frame out to the edge like this instead of bringing it in like this. So instead, it will come into the room just like that. I am going to be pretty boring for this one in terms of shape and just go with a big square. Okay, so I've got the basic shape of the room. Like I said, not that interesting, just a big square. And I've also outlined with some bricks just kind of where I want the pillars to be placed. One thing that I've actually done here, you can see that I've actually inset the frame. So the frame, instead of sticking out into the room actually kind of wraps around the frame and the frame is pushed back a block or so. And I did that here because I feel like it was getting really claustrophobic with the pillars here. The frame would stick out and either be like right next to it or kind of just a little too close for it. And I want these pillars here. So I think this looks good. I do this in a few rooms and I think you see it here and there in the actual game of Sands of Time. Okay, so it's starting to take shape here. You can see the pillars as we walk through. Kind of get kind of lost in kind of a creepy maze. I might make them thinner. I don't know, they feel kind of thick. But I do want a lot of them. I don't have too much room to work with. I've also added these little soul pits. That's what I wanted since the beginning. I do want to add some mangrove leaves. So these are the leaves that you'll find throughout all of the tomb. You won't find any other kinds of leaves. So I want to add some up here, you know, just dangling down here and there. But I do have a rule that I follow that I like keeping to. That is, if you're gonna have some kind of foliage, you also need to have some water, like a water source or something somewhere. So I may even fill in some of these pools, or little pockets, little ponds with water, make it look like it was flooded somewhere. I do want water coming out of a wall. However, these walls are right along the edge of our structure. So we do have this wall right here. So I may even just kind of bring this out a little bit and come in right here, replace these with stone bricks or mud bricks, and then put in a little pocket here somewhere and have it just pour out. Is that the one? Yes, nailed it. So it falls into this little area here, and then add some vegetation on top. And so far with our pillar room, I feel like it plays very well. You know, if you know where the door is, you can get there pretty quickly. If you don't know what this room holds, then you'll maybe spend a little bit of time looking left and right, going around pillars here and there before you find the exit. There's also this thing in the center. I don't know if I'll keep it. It was just a big, I don't know, just meant to be something that gets in your way. It's part of the design process. I'm still working on some things for this room, you know? Alright, so I've gone ahead and added a ceiling and some decor here with the leaves and everything. That makes some of these areas really dark and probably good for maybe some spawners that can go into the corners and the pits here and there. So that's good. I've also gone ahead and used the clone command at this point to make an exact copy of everything that we have down here. And so my idea is that this will eventually become one of the dead end structures for this room. Because, right, again, this room is very symmetrical and it's good, but imagine if it looked like this every single run, right? If a player came into the room here, they would instantly know, oh, well, I can just breeze past this room with ease and go directly to this door here because I know that's exactly where the exit will be every single freaking time that they run through the tomb. So we want to make sure that we spice things up here and allow for door frames on other edge sections of the room. I think it would be easy to add one right here, right next to this, but it might be a little more tricky adding to the sides here because the wall literally comes up against the edge of the structure here. So we may have to thin things down here a little bit and get rid of some of the maze here, and then only preserve it in our dead end structure. Let me just give myself night vision so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna get rid of this water source and start breaking down this wall. We need another door frame right here, I assume. Okay, it comes in like this. Kinda hard to see, but trust me, I think that's looking good. And then the bone pillar will be moved over to this side. And that should be good. Yep, okay, so we got a door here. Oh, I still gotta put this in place. Boom, bang, pow. Alright, so now we have two possible doors here. And so in our dead end structure, we will preserve this wall and then make sure that the rest of the edges of this room can be knocked out. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working, maybe do another door, maybe like right here on this side of the room as well. And then since this is symmetric, we can even add doors on this side of the room as well. So all four sides. Okay, so check it out. I think we're at a good place here with our room structure. We've got everything in place except for, you know, all the jigsaw blocks for decoration and connecting door frames in place. But we've got the ancient debris and structure void where it needs to be. So I think that this has enough door frames here. I've added 2 door frames for each side. So 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and then, as you saw earlier, 2 here. So I've also done some work for our dead end structure. So we're going to have several dead end structures actually. These are not finished, and I'm still kind of exploring how I want to create dead end structures here for this room. One of the things that I'm trying to do is make sure that I cut out only the parts that I need to. This is an interesting room structure where it has a repeating pattern. So I think I've got it figured out where everything in like this area that I'm floating around in right now can be preserved from our original room, whereas everything that you see that's not air here will basically be replaced. Will replace what is originally there. So what I'm going to do now is actually get some glass and just kind of fill in these areas where I want structure void blocks in this dead end structure. And now is also a good time to remind everyone that dead end structures should not have any kind of jigsaw blocks in them. So they won't generate any kind of lapis piles or any kind of template pool that you want. Alright, so I filled it all the way up with glass where I want there to be structure void blocks. I'm gonna just go over here to this corner and do /fill, and then come all the way down to the bottom here of this corner and make sure that block is selected so we get the coordinates of that. Structure void, replace glass, and now they're ready to be saved. Alright, and I've added the necessary jigsaw blocks for connecting door frames and then decoration jigsaw blocks into the room. So I've saved everything up and we're ready to go ahead and copy those over into our data pack and add them to some new template pools. And here we are in our data pack. I've located the template pool of a room structure that has a door frame on edge 3 and edge 12 on the same level. That could be on either the bottom, middle, or top level. We need to find one with a list pool element. Yep, okay, so this is a list pool element one. So I'm just gonna copy this and then paste this in here, just like that. Okay, and then we'll change the names of these structures. So we just added, where is it? Structure room. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to copy that. Here in this area. Boom. Oh, whoops. This doesn't have the prefix. So red sands of time rooms /4x5 / there we go, just like that. And we're actually going to have two dead end structures in this list pool element. So I need to make sure that we have the room and then two dead end structures. Let's see, where are those? There's one, so it will be 4x5 / this hoo-ha, and then I'll copy that name and make sure this is correct. 4x5 this hoo-ha right here. So dead end structures for the backroom pillars room structure. So let's just double check. This is the template pool for a 4x5 square room with door frames on edges 3 and 12. So we should see a 3 and a 12 in our original structure, and then all the rest of those numbers in this name should be carved out with our dead end structures, except for the 3 and the 12. And before we test this out, I'm just going to give this a massive weight so it has the greatest chance of generating over other structures. So this will make sure that we are almost guaranteed again to see the new structure. Okay, so I've just popped myself over into one of the team dimensions here. Let's go ahead and run the commands. Place jigsaw, red sands of time, rooms, / 4x5, and this is the 3 and 12. We need a piece, so let's do a middle, and then again, door frames on edge 3 and 12, so let's think of what should exist. We should have a 5 deep, .2 to the left, I believe. Hit enter. Okay, there we go. That's looking good. So let's take a look around the perimeter. We don't have any door frames here. We have, yep, that looks correct. Just a door frame there. Let's go ahead and kind of take a view in spectator mode here. Take a look around. So we got some zombies or husks spawning. We have our, oh good, we have a little waterfalls for decoration, and some of the pools are filled with water. We have candles, lapis, a little bit here and there. Okay, so that's looking good. Now this is all well and good and everything, but we haven't actually done anything new for our example here. So now comes the tricky part. We want to create a new variant of our backrooms pillars room structure with door frames on different edges. So in order to do this, we'll need to obviously, create different dead end structures that block off different edges of our backrooms, pillars, room structure. And we need to have a blueprint that matches the definition of our room. So come with me on a journey here. We're gonna go into the blueprints subfolder of our template pools and just take a look at the 4x5 subfolder. So I'm sure there may be another combination of 2 door frames here that we can use, but I think we can do better than that. Since we have a whopping 8 door frames we can work with, I think we should be able to find a combination where we use 3 door frames as exits for this room. So let's go ahead and scale up here and go into our 5x5 blueprint structures, right? Because you can fit a 4x5 structure inside of a 5x5 structure as long as if it has door frames on the correct edges. And so we can see a couple of options here that have door frames on 3 edges. And the easiest way, in my opinion, to just kind of figure out which one might fit for our needs is to just draw it out on paper. Which means the whiteboard is back, baby. Let's go. So I've written over here on the left the 4 template pools of the blueprint structures that we can use to possibly pick from. We're gonna go up here and in green draw out our 4x5 structure here. So we'll draw it out sideways here. And remember, some of these are door frames. So there are door frames for our structure. Let me really quickly do the same thing for our sideways copy here, just so we know where the door frames are. Okay, now let's draw out a 5x5 square structure. Okay, so this represents the area coming out of a 5x5 square represented by one of these template pools. So let's go ahead and draw out where these door frames line up for each of these. So starting with the first one, we have a door frame on edge 3, 8, and 18. Always start counting on the top left corner. 1, 2, 3. There would be a door frame here. I'm actually going to use orange, I guess. Edge 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And edge 18. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so taking a look at this structure and where the door frames are placed in it, I don't think we can put the 4x5 structure in this structure and align it with 3 of the door frames. Plus, the thing with this door frame configuration is with our room, you would be able to potentially see just straight through the room, and we don't want that for this room. So let's go ahead and knock that one off of our list. So next one is 8, 13, 18. Okay, now it looks like this one has the door frames on the same edges, just rotated. You will notice that there is a difference though. I've already erased what the name was, but there were door frames on either the bottom or the middle for this first one, and this one is more restrictive, saying that the door frames must be on the middle level. They cannot be on the bottom level, so they do look similar, but they are actually different blueprints. But in either case, they both won't work for what we're looking for. Okay, next up is 9, 12, 17. Okay, so here we have a more interesting configuration. So the player can take a path here and then end up going this way or coming this way and vice versa. So this may prove a little bit better. However, the issue that I have with this one is it once again has a straight line coming through, and I want to avoid that for our backrooms pillar structure. So let's keep that in mind as we move on to this last one here, 9, 12, 19. Okay, this is giving us more of an interesting result. I think I want to work with this one because it allows the player to come in here. Oh man, my blue marker is not working very well. I guess we'll use brown. Players can probably come in here and then make their way down here or something like this. So this will be more of an interesting result. So now it's just a matter of seeing if our 4x5 structure in any of these orientations can fit within the 5x5 and allow for these door frames at the same time. So I'm thinking if we can cut it out right here and then have a door frame here, this could work. So this would be using 8, 9, 10, 11, 16, 17. So in essence, we have our 4x5 structure here, and then over here we'll probably have a 1x3 that is just basically a straight line. Okay, so now what we need to do is make a blueprint structure that holds these edges open and make the dead end structures for our backrooms pillar room that cuts off all the edges that we aren't using and leaves us with this result. Alright, so I've gone ahead and made some additional dead-end structures for our backrooms pillars room structure. These are ready for testing. Now we need to turn our focus to making the appropriate blueprint structures. And it's a little easier for me to make blueprint structures because I have a copy of each and every blueprint structure that exists in the data pack right before my fingertips in this world, but you guys don't have access to this. But don't fret, because I will help you make sense of the blueprint structure protocol and help you design your own. Alright, we start here back in our data pack under the template pool blueprint subfolder and back into that 5x5, 9, 12, 19 template pool that we were looking at. You can see that there's only one entry here, and this is the name. So we're going to copy this and then place this structure in our dev dimension. Now this is a 5x5 structure, so I'm going to come over here to the 5 column and put in the structure name and make sure the relative coordinates are correct. Right, the outline looks correct, and when we hit load again, we should see only 2 things appear, 2 jigsaw blocks. So what I like to do when I have a blueprint structure is I like to just mark that out on the floor here. So I replace the netherite blocks with purple concrete and the sea lantern blocks with magenta concrete. That gives us this weird little pattern here. And then I'll take some black concrete and go ahead and outline where the door frames should be. Now remember, that will be from our name, so 9, 12, and 19, and they're all on the same level. So start counting after the red line up in the top left corner here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I just replace 3 blocks in, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, this one right here. Okay, so this should start looking similar to the shape we had drawn out. You'll notice one of these jigsaw blocks should have the name Red Sands of Time Blueprint. So this is important. This is our connecting jigsaw piece. Then this one over here is not aligned with the center. In fact, this one pulls from the room template pool. So this actually just places a 5x5 room structure. But we won't need this because our blueprint will be cut into a 4x5 section and then a 1x3 section right here. At this point, I like to kind of go back with either the netherite block or the sea lanterns and just kind of outline the blocks that are carved out. So I'm just outlining the corners of our 4x5 blueprint area, and we said this one needs to have a door frame here, which will connect to the 1x3 blueprint over here, and that's what that outline looks like there. I'll also come in and just add little pillars that outline the door frames even more so. These pillars are more important when I have a blueprint that extends up to another level. So I would come up 5 more blocks here if this door frame was on a second level above these 2. But that doesn't apply for what we're doing here. It's all on the same level. So we just come 7 blocks up and then have a row of black concrete. We can see that we've placed our jigsaw block at the same height as our black concrete bar here. So we're gonna go ahead and paste in that template pool name. And the target name is going to be Red Sands of Time Blueprint. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you turn this into structure void and that you spell it correctly. So now we need a blueprint that is 4x5 that has cutouts on edge 8, 11, and 17. We can see that this blueprint does not exist yet in our data pack, so we will have to create it. So we'll create the structure and the template pool as well. We'll place down a structure block and give it a name. And we have a little bit of flexibility here when it comes to the height of this blueprint structure. For this name, I've gone ahead and added the fact that each door frame must be allowed to generate on either the bottom, middle, or top of the levels, meaning that the room structure that is placed from this blueprint must be no taller than 20 blocks tall. If we did just like bottom, middle, going to fit inside the height of the blueprint structure that we were just working with, we can appropriately have this set to a height of 25 blocks instead. And this gives us a little more flexibility with what kind of rooms we can place inside this blueprint template pool. So I might leave it like this. I'm going to once again replace these colors. There we go. And then we'll mark out where the door frames are. Alrighty, so all we need to do now in this structure is place a jigsaw block that will pick from our room template. So this will be the one that connects to one of those piece jigsaw blocks. So the target name will be piece dot, and then this one will be the bottom level, 5 deep and 2 to the right. And this will pick from a template pool that we haven't created yet. And rooms 4x5 / bottom middle, 11 bottom middle, and 17 bottom middle. So just make sure you keep it consistent with whatever you named your blueprint structure here. Done, and then go ahead and fill in the entire space with structure void blocks. Okay, I lied. There's one other jigsaw block that we'll need to place in there, and it's the exact same thing as this jigsaw block. So I'm gonna hold Control and middle mouse, and we're gonna go ahead and probably put that on the same place here. So this will act as our connector jigsaw block, which will connect from a jigsaw block that we place right here. So this one will pull from a pool that we also still haven't made yet, but it'll have the same name as the other one, just with the blueprint subfolder instead of the rooms subfolder. So its target name is blueprint. It turns into structure void. Okay, so let's go ahead and make those template pools. Okay, here we are in our data pack. So we'll need a 4x5 template pool. I'm just gonna copy this and then rename it. 8 bottom middle, 11 bottom middle, 17 bottom middle. And make sure the name is appropriately changed up here as well. And so all we need this template pool to do is grab the blueprint structure that we just created. And that blueprint structure will look into our rooms subfolder. In fact, let me just copy the same thing from the blueprint subfolder and add it into our rooms here. Room template pool will actually need a list pool element. So I'm gonna once again copy this. Actually, you know what? We have this in here. So this is really more accurate to what we need right now. So we have our backrooms pillars room structure, and then we have our 2 additional dead end structures that we just created. Okay, now the last thing that we need to do here to tie it all back together is change this from load to save, and then give this a new name. So I like to call these cutouts by their size. So I'll do 4x5 cutout or something to that effect. And then back in the data pack, back in our original blueprint file that we were looking at and basing all of our work off of, go ahead and copy this and add a new element. Give this a fat weight so we can see it, and make sure it has the name of the blueprint structure we just created. Alright, so I went ahead and saved those structures and moved them over into our data pack here. I am currently in the pink parrots dimension, I believe, and I'm ready to test out the structures. So we made 2 template pools, a 4x5 blueprint template pool and a 5x5 template pool. So let's go ahead and test out the smaller one and see if that one works first, and then we'll test out the larger one. So the way we do this is place jigsaw, red sands of time, blueprint, /4x5, and then we should be able to see, yep, there's our new blueprint template pool, and the target will be blueprint, and we can just set the max depth to 20 and cross our fingers. Oh, okay, that's a good sign. So we have the room. Now double check that it generated where you expect it to. So we should see a door frame here, door frame there. Yep, that looks good. And then we should see one more door frame, yada yada yada, over here. All right, we're seeing some spawns, some spawners, and some creepers spawn inside the room. So that's cool. All right, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. So let's go ahead and test out the next one here. We just need to change the template pool here from 4x5 to 5x5. And we modified the 9, 12, 19 blueprint. So let's go ahead and see what this does. Oh no, it only loaded one of our rooms. Okay, so this is the point where you need to check the logs and see what's up. Okay, so we could see in our logs here that we do have an error, empty or non-existent pool. So this I've seen come up for one of two reasons. Either there's a spelling error or the structure file doesn't exist. Because we know that the template pool file exists, we were able to run the /place command. Now, if we look at this really closely, we can see that I do indeed have a spelling error here. I goofed up, and it's trying to pull this from a jigsaw block. All right, so we know that our 4x5 blueprint structure was running perfectly fine, but our 5x5 blueprint structure was giving us issues. More specifically, the 4x5 cutout of the 5x5 structure. We saw this room generate just fine as well. So it's gotta be with this jigsaw block, and there it is. There's our culprit. So red sands of time, not red of sands time. We'll hit done and save this structure and do the whole thing over again. All right, back in the pink parrots dimension. Let's go ahead and try this one more time. Oh baby, all right, this is looking good. So we got our room placed inside of our blueprint structure, and then it connects to this little blueprint here. So in the grand scheme of things, you know, this would be placed inside of a path structure. It's not super cool to see it right now as is, but I'm sure if you go ahead and ran the game for yourself, you may even see this pop up in some of the paths that generate. I'm not going to do that right now because I think I've gone over everything that I want to for the sake of this example. But let's say you really want to make a room that's not symmetrical. Well, then you'll need to be prepared to take some extra steps to implement your room into the data pack. So back here in our quartz pillars parkour room, I've added just a little bit more detailing, shaping for the room. Also added back in all the magma blocks so we can see what that looks like. And that will be kind of important for this first step of our extra steps here. Come out to the structure block and make sure you have that named properly. Go ahead and save, and then hold Control and middle click that structure block. And I'm just gonna fly off to the next area for our 6 wide column area. Place it down, and we're going to change it into the load mode. What we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it with this button right here. Now that you can see on the background here changes the bounding box area. So it flips it so that the blue line is coming out this way now. So we'll need to offset the relative position by, since it is a 6 wide, we need 30 blocks here. Hit done. Now this may look like the normal bounding box for the structure, but don't be fooled, because when you click load, you'll be given a mirrored copy of the room that you were just working in. This freaks me out every time. I spend so much time looking at it one way, and then to see it completely mirrored it messes with my brain. So typically the reason why we make a mirrored copy of our room structure is for both the port and starboard path directions. We want to make sure that both versions are usable to the different kinds of paths that generate. And so if we have a different room, that means that we'll also need to make more blueprint structures. So in essence, this has a bit of a cascading effect where, since we've created a flipped version of the room, we need to create flipped blueprint structures and flipped dead-end structures if necessary. So to wrap things off with this example, the last thing that I'm going to do, because I don't want to go through all of that right now, I'll do that off camera. After we flipped our room structure here, you need to come to the jigsaw blocks of the door frames and rename them, because they all have their lefties and their righties mixed up. So go through each of these and replace the left ones with the right ones and the right ones with the left ones. And once that all looks good, I'll come over and then do the fill command to replace the magma blocks with structure voids. Then in our structure block, we're going to go ahead and change this back to save. Reset the relative position to all be ones, and rename where our door frame edges are. So we now have door frames on edges 2 in the middle, 3 in the middle, 5 on the top, 11 on the middle, 12 in the middle, and 18 on the bottom. And the bounding box is still flipped over, so go back to load and then make sure this is reset so it's not mirrored. Then go back to save. And with all of that said and done, I want to re-emphasize the fact that I really want to discourage you guys from making big rooms like this. For 2 reasons. One, it's just a lot of work. And 2, the data pack really isn't ready for larger scale rooms like this, like 6x6, 7x7s, right? Because the max size of a blueprint will match the size of a path structure. That will be 9x9 squares. And since all the path blueprint structures match all of the path structures themselves, they only ever have 2 exits. At some point, I plan to make path structures with 3 exits. That will be branching path structures, and that'll make the tomb really interesting to run through. But I haven't really gotten to that point yet because throughout the creation of this data pack, I've been working from small to big. So small 1x whatever structures, 2x whatever, so on and so on, and only just a few of the larger scale rooms are actually implemented. But once we have branching path structures, I think that'll open the door to a lot of cooler shaped, large scale room structures. So once you're done testing all of your custom rooms and template pools that you've added into the data pack, you can create what's called a pull request to have your changes added into the official data pack for Red Sands of Time. So to do this, go into VS Code and go into the source control tab. We're going to go ahead and add a message here for our changes, something like add backrooms pillar room. I don't know, whatever. And you're going to want to make sure that everything is listed under the stage changes section. If it doesn't show that, if it just says changes, you'll want to go ahead and hit the little plus button here. And once they're under the stage changes section, you can go ahead and hit commit. You can see here on the graph at the bottom here, our new commit has been added, and we have our new user here who has done the commit. We'll go ahead and click the sync changes button. And once that's finished, you can see in our temp GitHub account under our forked repository, it now says that this branch is 1 commit ahead of CrownedComedian's Red Sands of Time data pack repository. So if you go ahead and click this blue text here, it will show you the commit that we just pushed up to our remote here. There's also a convenient button here called Create Pull Request. So you could go ahead and add a description or just the title, and then once you click this Create Pull Request, it will notify me of some changes that you've made that you want to add into the official data pack. And that will wrap things up for this episode. My goodness, this has been a long one. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you'll even learn something new. And you got to see a sneak peek for what is to come. But please do make your own custom rooms and feel free to create a pull request to add them into the official data pack. That would be awesome. All right, I'm going to head out. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.